Om Vatavitapi Samipe Bhumi Bhage Nishannam Sakala Muni Jananam Jnana Dhatharamarat Tribhuvana Gurumisham Dakshinamurti Devam Janana Marana Dukkha Cheda Daksham Namami Chitram Vadatator Mule Vriddha Sishya Gurur Yuva Gurorastu Maunam Vyakhyanam Shishyaste Chinna Samshayaha Om Nama Pranavartaya Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. So last class we tried to understand, trace the path individuals take in the pursuit of happiness, which is everybody's goal. While the goal is not different, what is different is understanding of that goal and identifying the path to achieve that goal. That is where the differences start. So each individual evolves. Each individual has his or her own understanding of what is happiness. Although all of us agree happiness is what for we are, and start making our own efforts, thinking that happiness is ours. So when this whole path when we go through this whole path, after a while, as I said, after a while can mean in a Vedantic clock is much bigger. It can be yugas, it can be several janmas also. So after a while, notwithstanding in which path we went, it can be a charvaka who thinks that life is only for enjoyment. You know, there is nothing beyond this life and so on. People are entitled to that views. Why not? People think materialism is the only thing that we have to do. They will immerse in materialism. I think in our system, everybody has room for what they want to do. That is why we can have any number of sadhus, any number of godmen, any number of cult, any number of ways of deciding what is right. I think anything is possible. Because that is the most natural thing. You can't constrain everybody into one God, one book or one way and all. I think it won't work. It's a very artificial idea. So notwithstanding whichever direction we go and whichever path we take, there is one thing which we will all converge. So it's only a question of time. See, if somebody wants to go from here to Bangalore city station, one can take the shortest path. One can take a left turn here and go about 400 kilometers to Madurai or Chennai and also come. Who said it is not possible? All those are possible. But in our journey, some might have taken a longer path, somebody might have taken a relatively shorter path. All those are fine. But this journey has a very important milestone, or you may call it as a threshold or a milestone. And what is that? And that is, notwithstanding the path that we have taken, notwithstanding the quantum of progress we made from time to time, finally, we will end up with two things. First thing is, we will end up with the futility of worldly pleasures. It can take more time, less time. That doesn't matter. And what we see in a Janma is no way to be, see, in our normal things, we have our own difficulty in understanding. Ramana Maharishi at the age of 17, he just went away. For him, people think it happened in 17 years. It might not have happened in 17 years. It might have happened in so many Janmas. In this Janma, it is 17 years, which is fine. So, at the end of it, we will understand everything we have in the world is a perishable inventory. All are perishables. including the Stula Sharira and the Sukshma Sharira. So that is one conclusion we have to come. We can take our time. The conclusion can be strong, can be weak, can be a very vague idea, can be not at all a convincing idea. All those patterns are possible. But the wisdom of the ages and the wisdom of the rishis tell us that this will happen. At a time we will find that these worldly things are futile. So until then we will do it. Nobody is going to do anything which is futile. The very fact we are doing something is we don't find it futile. I mean, that is a transition, which is all right. We don't have to think low of it or bad of it. All that is not part of Vedanta at all. It is all a very balanced view of what we have to do in life. The second conclusion which many will come is, while all these are perishable, there is a lack of clarity of where to go. See, that's the other problem. It's one thing to say I don't need it, but if I don't know what is the other thing, this is a Trishanku now. So I think we will all go through that, again in varying degrees. Futility of this is one part of a transition, but not seeing this path to open up is the second part of this story. We will, depending upon the God's grace, we will go through all these and reach where we need to reach. Now, it is precisely for this reason that when we are stuck like this, which every one of us will, in our spiritual evolution, in this blossoming of this Vyaktitva, when we reach there, that is precisely where the Guru Tattva comes. So this is why in this country, Guru is a very inevitable part of one's evolution. It is impossible. In fact, I know people who are very intelligent, very level-headed, in the sense, they're fair-minded, they don't have this wishful thinking, none of that. But I find that they don't have gurus, they are actually stuck. They are cruising on a plateau. They are not here. I know some of them very closely also I know. I used to wonder, why is it that this is happening? Because that Guru happening to us is also a Kataksha. It's also very important. In fact, again and again people ask me, sir, what is this Bhagavad Kataksha? How do you explain it? I told it long back in one of the classes. I want to repeat it again. Once people ask me, I think in the class only somebody asked, what is this Bhagavad Kataksha that you are talking about? Now, I have a person who is very closely known to me. I want to narrate this story because this explains it very well. Person known to me, that person was alone. She was alone because her husband was with their daughter. She couldn't go and stay with the daughter. The daughter was having her confinement. So she went for a few days. She couldn't apply too many days leave, so she came back. She is alone at home. This husband is with the daughter because he can help her. He could stay. I think her husband is retired, I think. So he could take a little more time. So he was with the daughter for a month or so. And he returned on a particular day. He was coming by the early morning train, I think 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, 5:30 or something. This lady, at 6 o'clock on that day, okay, what she was doing every day, only she was doing that day. What was she doing? Early morning she was watering the front part of the house, just cleaning up and putting the rangoli, which all the ladies do, and she was doing for how many years, I do not know. That day, at 6 o'clock, this person arrives from till yesterday she was alone. At 6 o'clock this person arrives home. 6:10 this lady actually takes the bucket and goes. The rubber mat slips. She falls and breaks her back. Some weird sort of right? I happened to know this. I went after a few days to meet her. First thing I told her, I said, you have a lot of Bhagavad Kataksha. She asked why. I said, 1.5 months you are alone. If it had happened 1 month back, you know how much of trouble it would have put, because this father would have come back in. First of all, I don't know how she would have reached the hospital to sort out the first 2-3 hours. I mean, this is a genuine issue. Please understand. And then, assuming, neighbors help, neighbors will help. I'm not saying that. Now look at how it would have tossed the whole thing. You know, this person would have come and they would have found that there's no help, and you would also felt bad, I could have helped, I could not help. So I was narrating this in that way. I was telling her that we all come with a bag of prarabdha. What in this Janma is going to happen, we carry in a bag. Right? We can influence the next Janma. This Janma is like an arrow which has been released out of the bow. You can't take it back and put it back and change that. All that is not possible. So I told her that your getting hurt is part of the plan with which your bag has have it. But look at how even when you have to go through trouble in your life, this is what I have seen in many people's life. They have Bhagavad Kataksha. We will go through difficulties in life. Bhagavad Kataksha doesn't mean you will not have difficulty. I think Vedanta never says that, and that's a bad understanding of life. In this Janma, we have brought a bag and we have to open the bag and keep taking it. The question is, can it be facilitated? Can it be little more easy for me? That is called Bhagavad Kataksha. So getting a guru is exactly like that. Unless that happens by itself, there must be that ambience which must happen. So that is the Bhagavad Kataksha. Guru is also, Guru Kataksha is a larger principle of the Bhagavad Kataksha. So everybody needs a guru. Again, this guru can be a whole spectrum. I don't think there is a single guru for any one of us. There are different types of gurus. These are all the making of this Ishvara. That the hand holding happens at different levels and different stages. That is why in this country, guru is a very, very important principle. Because if that guru is not there, we will be stuck. We will be just plateauing. Otherwise, Chitta Shuddhi is there, but the progress is not there. It is like, we are just cruising and you are not able to make a movement if the movement meant going upward, but you are cruising on a flat. Imagine like that. That is why guru is a very, very important concept that we talk about in this. So what kind of a guru? I mean, on Guru, Shiva Purana, Guru Gita is there. I mean, so much is there. Guru, one can keep on talking. I am saying all this because before Dakshinamurti, I want to put these ideas in place before we get into Dakshinamurti. From Viveka Chudamani, there is 2 shlokas in which Shankaracharya has talked. The first 40-50 shlokas in Viveka Chudamani is this preamble. How, the Shishya comes and asks some 4-5 questions and then it's a nice conversation with which Viveka Chudamani starts. There it talks about, Titiksha, Shraddha, Bhakti, everything is there. Then it talks about Guru. So I will take those 2 shlokas alone just to give you what is the ultimate sort of a Guru that we can aspire as the final stage of our Guru. In between we'll have a lot of intermediate stages. So that is what we will first see. So in Viveka Chudamani, what he says is, Upasidet Gurum Prajnam Yasmad Bandha Vimokshanam Shrotriyah Avrajinah Akamahataha Yo Brahma Vittamah. This is the first shloka, there is a second shloka. We will see this shloka first. In fact, there is a Kriya Pada required, otherwise you cannot make this shloka. So Upasidet, that is the Kriya Pada there. Go and approach. That is a verb. So approach whom? Then we can ask approach whom. If there is a Kriya Pada, we can make sense of the shloka. I was telling it in the last class of my Sanskrit course. Right? So Upasidet. Go and approach. The question is, come Upasidet. There it says Gurum. So go and approach a Guru. That's why Dvitiya Bhakti. Because the Karta is now understood. That's a Kriya. So the one which connects Karta and Kriya is the Karma, which is a Guru. So Gurum Upasidet. The rest are all in Dvitiya Bhakti. That means all of them are accepting with that gender and that Vibhakti, so they are all adjective to it. So the rest are all describing what kind of a Guru it is. So it is simple. The shloka is now as simple as that. So Upasidet Gurum. And what kind of Guru? Prajnaha. He is one who is, well aware, well informed, well knowledgeable experientially, not theoretically. Prajnaha. And what kind of a Guru he is? Yasmad Bandha Vimokshanam. In fact, the Bahuvrihi is in a Vigrahavakya here. Bandham vimokshanam yasmat. From whom or out of whom? Out of whom means because of him. Out of whom here means it's sort of a figurative usage here. Because of him, what happens? Bandha vimokshanam bhavati. We will be able to urvarukami abandhanat mrityor mukshi amamrita mrityunjaya matra. Urvarukami abandhanat, like the cucumber fruit, which when it is ripe plucks itself from the plant. Like that, we need to be released from the bondage. A guru can help for us. So, yasmat bandha vimokshanam, bandhasya vimokshanam, bandha vimokshanam. Yasmat, from whom? So, it is describing the guru. And then, what kind of a person he is? He is a shrotriya. He is a shrotriya. He is, one who is well versed in the Shruti. Shruti Vakya, Anusandhiyaha. One who is well versed, internalized, experienced what is contained in the Shruti is a Shrotriya. So Shrotriyaha, Avrajinaha. Shrotriya Akamahata, both are here. Taittiriya Shrotriyasya Chakamahatasya Te Yeshatam Manushya Gandharvanam Ananda. Shrotriyasya Chakamahatasya Shrotriyaha Cha Akamahataha. One who is beyond the domain of desire, because if the guru is, if only the guru is in the beyond the domain of desire, then there is a nice thing. Guru should be Sishyanam Chitta Apaharaha, not Vitta Apaharaha. If he is not beyond the domain of desire, he will become Vitta Apaharaha. He will steal away your wealth. Whereas a true guru must be Chitta Apaharaha. He should take away this. Chit is creating a problem, na? In Shivananda Lagare, I was mentioning the other day, Magacha itastata, Mayeva vasam kuru, Swamin ati kirata, Mayeva vasam kuru. Take out, my mind. Take my mind. Take my mind. My problem is the mind. That's why, Bandha vimokshanam, Shrotriyaha avrajinaha, Kamahataha, Yo Brahma vittamaha. One who is the superior, Tamaha is the superior, superlative degree. Brahmavit Tamaha, amongst the Brahmavit, he is the ultimate, superior. Brahmavit Taraha, Brahmavit Tamaha. So it is a superlative of one who is Brahmanishta in a way. So that is the first thing that he says in the first sloka. In the second sloka he says, Brahmani Uparataha, in Sandhi it becomes Brahman Uparataha. Brahmani Uparataha, Shantaha, Nirindana Ivanalaha. They are all very nice usages. Next line you see, Ahetuka Daya Sindhuhu. This is the true property of, if we have got a good guru, this is the ultimate property. There is no hetu, first of all. Ahetuka is a nanj. Ahetuka. Na hetuha ahetuka. Ahetuka Daya Sindhu. He is ocean of compassion for no reason. It's not because he likes you, he is beyond all that. And to get a guru like that is truly blessed we will be blessed if we get a guru like that. Ahetuka daya sindhuhu. That's the second line it says. Ahetuka daya sindhuhu anamatam satam. We'll come to that. Brahmani uparataha. So uparati, upa is near. Ratihi means reveling in it. So one who is reveling in Brahman, Brahmanishtaha, he is reveling in Brahman all the time. That is the one which gives him the maximum, satisfaction and the joy that he has. That kind of a person. Brahmani uparataha. If somebody is Brahmani uparataha, then this mind has no role to play. The mind is subdued now, so he becomes shantaha. These, tribulations, this, chalana, chanchalam hi mano Krishna, pramavad dridavad bhalam, tasyaham nigraham manye, vayoriva dushkaram, is what Krishna, Arjuna asked Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, that pramadivat balad dridam, all those will go, balavad dridam, all those will go if you become Brahmani uparataha. Because the mind needs something. If it is settled, that's it. The mind is settled. So such a person will be shantaha. Then it says, Nirindana iva analaha. Iva. Nirindina iva analaha. Iva plus analaha, iva analaha. Nirindina iva analaha. Without a fuel. It is some, which means it has reached its threshold. It needs no, it is on a, self course. There is nothing, it is not in a world of expectation, there is no input-output relationships to things that are required in life. It is by itself. Atmanyeva Atmani Tishtaha. In chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, at the end of yoga, he says that. Atmanyeva Atmani Tishtaha Atmaratihi. All that he says. That kind of a person is self-driven and he is free. Nothing is required. There is no cause and effect. See, Nirindina Ivanalaha says the world of cause and effect is gone. Fuel and fire is a cause and effect. So when you say Nirindana Ivanalaha, the world of cause and effect has disappeared. That is a state of complete freedom. We don't know that. We are still driven by a whole lot of cause and effect in many things. Every moment of our life is cause and effect in some ways. We work for a cause or we experience an effect. And that's how it dictates our life in many ways. He is beyond cause and effect. Ahetuka daya sindhuhu anamatam satam. So, this a person who is like that, to whom we should pay the obeisance to him all the time. Anamatam, satam anamatam. Such a person you go and then, this is what Shankara says. Huh? Huh? Which one? Bandhuhu, yeah? In this, Uparataha. Uparataha. It's a Kridanta. Uparataha. That is a Kriyapada here. One who is, it's a participle. Actually, it's a verb which is converted into a participle. You need a Kriyapada in any form. It's a Kridanta. It's called a Kridanta. Uparataha. Pachakaha is a cooker. Cook. Not cooker. Cook. So it's a Kridanta actually. That's a Kriyapada here. It's a No, up to. No, not a compounded word. Ahaituka daya sindhuhu. The visarga has become repa. The rakara is coming because of that. So ahetuka daya sindhuhu. Bandhuhu. The rakara comes because of visarga. Repa. Bandhuhu. So there are 4 padas there. Ahetuka daya sindhuhu. Bandhuhu. Anamatam satam. Like that. So, such a guru, particularly a guru who is ahetuka daya sindhu, is we have almost reached. When we have found that guru will come to us. As I told, when we make our effort, we cannot be find wanting in making our effort, but guru will come. We don't have to, all this traditional management, what we do, I put so much effort, therefore so much effect and all that doesn't work here. It is an effort and it will happen. And it happens. We are only not making sense of what is happening. Every moment that happens for a cause. We are not able to make sense of it. Actually, if we are more evolved, we will understand we don't have to make sense of it. That is a better way of leading life. We don't have to make sense of it. The moment we start trying to make sense of it, our mind will play its role and spoil us. That's what many of us do. We will do all that. We don't have to do all that. In other words, this guru is exactly like a catalyst in a chemical process. See, if you really look at a catalyst, there is something interesting about this catalyst. Catalyst will accelerate the process. It will make the process better. If more energy is required, more energy, it will not participate in the process. That is the definition of a catalyst. If you look at a simple, chemistry may have more detailed definitions. But in simple ways, a catalyst is the most important thing is it will not take part in the process. A guru will not take part in your evolution. It is not possible also. In Viveka Chudamani, he says a little later, he says you need your own eye to see the Chandra. The beauty of Chandra, he says that. You cannot borrow somebody's eyes and you cannot outsource your happiness. You cannot outsource your sense of contentment and all. Outsourcing literature will not work here. These are all solo. So, a guru can only catalyze the process. He or she will create conditions that your progress is now, that's what we are stuck, we will come out of it. So, that kind of a guru, and that kind of a guru is our ultimate goal in life. We need to keep looking for that. It will happen. When it happens is not a question in our individual evolution. Don't bring performance metrics. Do it for the sake of kartavyam iti et karyam kriyate tad satvikam karyam. Datavyam iti diyate tad danam satvikam smritam. This is the definition. You look at Bhagavad Gita. This situation requires this response. That is the simplest definition of karma yoga. If you ask me what is karma yoga, we don't need very complex definitions. This situation demands this response. I am able to spontaneously respond. That is called a karma yogi. If we were able to run 24/7 our life like that, we have become a karma yogi. That is a simple definition. This is sattvic behavior. That we need to do it, and then the guru will come. So that is what it is. So let's talk about, so when we have a guru like that, then this will follow very naturally. Complete resignation on the part of the disciple to the will of the teacher, because he is ahetuka daya sindhu. So our heart will melt. In fact, guru will bring bhakti. Bhakti gets into us only through a guru. It is the guru which brings, in fact, many a time that guru can be a child also. A child can introduce a lot of bhakti. A child can do many things. I mean, if only we are open. I have found, there are any number of people who have reached the pinnacle of perfection in Grihastha Ashram. Grihastha Ashram provides any amount of, in fact, Grihastha Ashram provides enormous, self-evolution will happen only in Grihastha Ashram, not in any other ashram. People have wrongly understood the ashramas. Evolution of the self can happen only in Grihastha Ashram. No other ashram can evolve individuals. People who have not walked through Grihastha Ashram will never evolve. And when they have evolved, a time will come when they will drop the Grihastha Ashram. In Janma, next Janma, all that can happen. It's such a wonderful ashram in which so many things can happen. So that revering Guru in the heart, that all that is required, because that knowledge and devotion are like these this thing on which you have to run the show. Mere devotion without knowledge will also not take us too far. Mere knowledge is all dry, egoistic understanding of things in life. That's all no use. And mere devotion will also plateau us. A guru will be able to put these two together. That is the catalyzing act a guru does. And such a guru is a guru who can transform us to the next level of our evolution. And so this guru has to be praised and taken to the highest level. That is what Shankaracharya did through Dakshinamurti Stotram. This notion of guru must be put at the highest pedestal, and we should be able to see a guru who is such an embodiment of perfection. So that is why he chose Dakshinamurti Stotram and wanted us to remind all these ideas before we step into the Stotram. So that is what it is. So we will see that Stotram slowly. Now let's talk about Dakshinamurti a little bit. Now Dakshina, the word, in Sanskrit class also we said, right is Dakshina, left is Vama. Vama Bhaga, Dakshina Bhaga. So one meaning is right, but that's not the meaning here. As I told, the right side is Dakshina only because the direction, you have to stand east and stretch your hand. If you stand east, the south is right. That's why the word Dakshina came for the Dakshina Bhaga and Vama Bhagam. So Dakshina means south. That is a very useful definition for this Dakshinamurti. There are several meanings. One is, right side. One is south. Dakshina also comes from Dakshaha. Dakshaha is, Dakshyam is excellent execution. In Sundarakandam, in the first canto, about 208th shloka, 209th shloka, depending on which edition you have, because this Ramayana has a little bit of variations. But if you take the 208th or 209th shloka, Valmiki says, after Hanuman reached this side, Mahendragiri, he immediately, Valmiki is full of that. Valmiki Ramayanam's, something which is really stunted me in Valmiki Ramayanam, is as he keeps telling something, Valmiki, then and there he actually makes you reflect with a concept or with a life principle or with a larger generalization of an event. He keeps doing it plenty. I see it plenty. So here Hanuman crosses and reaches. Immediately he says, Yasmin I don't remember the shloka by heart, but I know what the shloka is saying. He says, in that person in whom these four are there, he talks about four. He says Dhriti, Mati, and I think Smriti, and Darkshyam. If he has these four, Valmiki says, he can achieve anything. So like that he will make certain statements and go. So there he uses Darkshyam. Darkshyam is from Daksha. Daksha is capable, Nipunaha. One who is very capable is that also comes. So those are the two. So here, Dakshinamurti, in a first simplest thing, is one who is facing south. That is the first this thing about Dakshinamurti. And there is a little story behind it. I mean, there is also a little bit of story behind it, because our culture is so much of storytelling, partly sometimes to remember the background or partly to emphasize a point or something. So the story goes like this: the Brahma's four Manasa Putras, Sanat Kumara, Sanatana, Sanandana, and the fourth one is Sanaka. Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara. These are the four Manasa Putras of Brahma. They were not interested in, they were straight evolved, out of the frying pan evolved. They were straight into liberation. So they wanted, again they were stuck. They wanted to, but they don't know. So they went, and then they went to Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. They said, on seeing them itself, they said, these people are not going to help me. They sort of came to that kind of this is a story. They were not very convinced that they are going to get, their teachings. So when they were stuck like that, Shiva said, I will take another form. Shiva said, I will take another form. In a way, it is so acceptable to them that I will actually provide them the teachings that they want. This is the story. And he took the form of Dakshinamurti, sat south facing. That is why he is called Dakshinamurti. It's not Dakshinamurti. Dakshina plus Amurti. Then only the Akara, his Dirgha will come. Dakshina Dik plus Amurti. He is Nirguna. There is no Murti. Although we have put a Dakshinamurti, we have put a Murti. But Dakshinaha Amurtischa. Dakshinamurti. Dakshinaha Amurtischa. Dakshinamurti. Nipunaha Amurtischa. Athva Dakshina Dishiyam Ye Upavishanta. All that we can say. Dakshinaha Amurtischa Dakshinamurti. Now this Sadashiva, in Lalita Sahasranama, there is a very nice this thing. Lalita Sahasranama, every mantra is, such a wonderful mantra to reflect. There is this mantra, somewhere near 300, this will come. Panchakritya Parayana. It's a nice 5 things are told. It says, Srishtikartri, Brahma Rupa, Goptri Govinda Rupini, Samharini Rudra Rupa, Tirodana Karishwari. Then what does it say? Sadashiva Anugrahata. See, this Anugraha role is done through this form called Sadashiva, Panchakritya Parayana. Each one is very nice to actually reflect on. So he says, Sadashiva Anugrahata. So that Sadashiva, out of Anugraha, he said, let me, these 4 Manasa Putras want to redeem themselves. I will make myself available in a way which is so appealing to them, and then they will get my blessings and they will. So that is a sort of a story behind why he was south facing and he was sitting, and all that is. There is a Dakshinamurti Upanishad in which also it is similar thing is mentioned in a slightly different way. It says, Se mushi dakshina prokta sa iksya bhikshane mukam. Moment we turn our direction towards him, he says, you will be actually lifted off your worldly things. You will be redeemed of, because only then you will turn seriously towards him. Dakshina abhimukaha proktaha. That person is said to be Dakshina abhimukaha proktaha. He has already become south facing. And Shiva asau Brahma asau Shiva. He is Sakshat Shiva. He will be liberated. Like what they say, who say Brahmavadi bihi. So Dakshinamurti Upanishad is a small Upanishad. It is part of Krishna Yajurveda, where there are some mantra, upasana, there is Karanyasa, all those are there. In that this shloka is coming, where it says that Dakshina is actually the divine power or buddhi of subtle perception. Moment that perception is fallen, befallen, finished, you will be resolved of your samsara and all that kind of a thing. But before we get into Dakshinamurti Stotram, there are a couple of things we need to be very clear, because this is very, very strange about Dakshinamurti Stotram. I want to say that, because all these are very important before we see this Stotram. See, generally there are a lot of stotras. So what is a Stotram? And what is the purpose of a Stotram? First of all, Stotras are written by the great seers, Rishis. If the Stotra is written in Veda, in Shruti, it is called Sukta. Suktas are the Vedic equivalent of the Stotras. In Shruti it is Suktam. In Smriti it is Stotra. Okay? They serve the same purpose. So what is the idea of a Stotram? Stotras are required to develop bhakti. The rasa is bhakti rasa in Stotram. Generally you take any Stotram, the Stotras are meant, because as I told you, knowledge without bhakti is of no use, bhakti without knowledge is of no use. We need both. Both has to coexist, then only the evolution will happen. So the primary vehicle for that is Stotram. First of all, it is for bhakti. Why? Because Stotras establishes Ishvara Tattva. You read any Stotram. In fact, Chandrasekhara Bharati Swami of Sringeri, one person went and asked that what is this? If you read Shiva's Stotra, it says Shiva is the ultimate. If you read Devi Shostra, it says Devi is the, if you read Devi Aparata Kshamapana Stetra, it says Bhavani Tot Panigrahana Paripati Palamitam. It says Shiva, first 3 shlokas, it's a very nice shloka. 10 shlokas are there in Devi Aparata Kshamapana Stotram. He says, first 3 shlokas it says, what is the Shiva here? He is having an empty thing. He goes to Smasana and then he puts all these ashes and then he is Bhikshatana. First 2 lines are like that. Then last line it says, Bhajati Jagatishaika Padavim. He suddenly is now Jagadaha Ishaha iti Padavim Praptavantaha. How did he get such a celebrated idea that Bhajati Jagatishaika Padavim? Acharya Shankaracharya gives an answer for that. He says, Bhavani Tot Panigrahana Paripati Palamitam. He took your hand, he got all his ayujya. Like that. So these bhakti granthas are meant to develop that there is a larger force. It uses a bhakti rasa to establish that there is a larger force beyond all of us, and that larger force manifests in many ways in what we do in life, and that Sharanagata has to happen. And for that we need to reflect on this larger force in all its. So this Chandrasekhara Bharati, when he was asked, he said, every Ishvara is the form of a different form of the same entity. Then he very jokingly apparently gave an answer. He said, there are 5 children in the house. Today, this children's birthday, then everybody will say, these children now occupies the VIP. Everybody, says good about the children, all gifts are given to it. It no way means the other children are inferior. This is the answer he gave. So the second day, some other day, the second child's birthday, that day that child becomes, so this is like that. These are all different formats. There is nothing like inferior, superior. These are all in your mind. See, this Bheda Bhava is what we are made of. Aikya Bhava is not ours. That is there. It is covered in many ways. The Avarana is there. So that is the Ishvara Tattva is established generally through a Stotram. Because that brings that sense of awe. Because through that the Bhakti will develop. Because the earliest science and understanding of Bhakti we have developed when you are 1 or 2 years old. Because with the Mata we have developed Bhakti. With the sense of awe the child looks at the Mata. It's all ingrained. Later this is only opening it up. It only provides an opportunity to open it up. Bhakti will come through the Mata. It will not come through the Pita. The Bhakti comes through the Mata. Generally. That is how it is. So all these are the purpose of a stotram. And why is it required? Because the stotra is a very nice way of upasana. Manasya ekagrata katam va karaniyam. How are we able to establish this oneness? So you need that. So the stotras or granthas meant for it. It creates a sense of awe. It creates a sense of Ishvara bhava. It creates that grandeur of power and force, so that we can and some mechanisms to contemplate, so that the manas upasana can be done. So upasana is an intermediate step because the manas has to be tied together. Otherwise it goes all over. So this is how generally stotra is done. Dakshinamurti stotra has none of this. This is the Vaisishtyam. This is the specialty of, if I had to say, now if this is the purpose of any stotram, and Adi Shankara's all stotrams are like that. And Dakshinamurti stotram is not like that. Because all this I want you to reflect. There is a deep tatparya behind why Acharya called it a stotram and did something. It is actually a pure prakarana grantha. Prakriya. It's a proper high thinking text like an Upanishad. Dakshinamurti Stotram is actually, it can rival the Upanishad. The entire Advaita Siddhanta is contained in these 10 shlokas. Murti may be small, Kirti is very huge. Just 10 shlokas. But it can be so encompassing and wide. He chose to do it in a particular way. Now, why am I saying it is not a Stotram? As Stotram is generally understood. I find there are 3 things required for me to call or recognize something as a stotram, which follows from the earlier. If there are 3 things, I will say it is a stotram. First thing is, there should be a description of a devata. All Shankar, all acharyas, Ramanujacharyas, you see Raja Kulasekara Alvar's is, Mukundamala, you see so many are there. In the stotra, there will be a description of Devata in all its might, and all the Shankaracharya stotras are also like that. But you will not find here. There is one last line, Tasmai Sri Guru Murte Namaidam Sri Dakshina Murte. That's only reference to Dakshina Murti. It is artificially attached. See, I am reminded of a joke. This is not a joke, but I am reminded of a joke. One person studied thoroughly about cow. He was asked to write an essay on tree. So what he did, he wrote all that he knew about cow. Then finally he wrote, such a cow can be tied to a tree. This is what Acharya has done here. This is exactly what Acharya has done here. What he has done is, he wanted to put some very elaborate high thinking. He did all that in the first 3 lines. Then he tied it to the tree called Tasmai Sri Guru Murte Namaitam Sri Dakshinamurte, and he very smartly called as Dakshinamurti Stotram. So it is different. It is not Stotram in the normal sense of the term, because there is no description of Devata. It never describes Dakshina as a Murti. It has this, it can do it, he can do. It is not even he, it is not even she, it is not even it. There is no description of how it is. Whereas if you look at Subramanya Bhujangam, there are beautiful descriptions are there. And second thing is, no praise of any Devata is there. In Subramanya Bhujangam it is there. 33 shlokas beautifully there, if you think about it. Jayananda Sindho, Jaya Seshabandho, Jaitum Sada Mukti Dane Sasunot. It ends like that finally. Very nice description. You will not find it here. Third, there are no efforts to ask for anything. Normally stotra is also used to ask for something. Okay? In Devi Aparata Kshamapana Stotra, beautifully it says, Matsamaha Pataki Nasti, Tosama Patagni Na, Evam Nyatva Mahadevi Yata Yogyam Tata Kuru. That is the last shloka. This is what he says. There is nobody worse than me. There is nobody who can better than you in removing all the sins, so you decide what you have to give and give me. Shankaracharya, the other day I was making this in the other talk, he will take it to a lofty level and ask. He will not ask small little things, he will take it to the much higher level and ask. That's why he said, you decide. Best thing is to leave. You decide. Even another, look at this. Saundarya Lagari. Look at the 22nd shloka. Bhavani tvam dase mayi vitara drishtim sakarunam iti stotum vanchan katayati bhavani tvam iti yaha. First two lines says, Bhavani Tvam Dase, I am your Dasa. Mahi Vitara Drishtim Cha Karunam. You please shower your Karunya Drishti on me. Iti Stotum Vanchan. Desiring to say like that, he is not even said. He is desiring to say like that. Iti Stotum Vanchan Katayati. He says, Bhavani Tvam. This full sentence he hasn't started. He says, Bhavani Tvam. Dase Mahi Vitara Drishtim Cha Karunam. All those hasn't come. Then Acharya sees what he says in the next two lines. Tadaivatvam tasmai dishasi nija sayujya padavim. The moment he said Bhavani Tvam, Shankaracharya says, at that instant itself, he was given sayujya padavim. What kind of padavim? Mukunda Brahmendra Sputa Makuta Nirajita Padam. The greatest people, Mukutas, are touching your feet. They are offering pranams to you. So like that he has written in other stotras. There is a pala, there is a certain asking for something. This has none of those. There is a reason behind it. Because by calling it a stotra, he is building the bridge between bhakti to jnana. The stotra is the bhakti part of it, but what you ask can become much larger, and as you keep asking, as you start evolving and develop that bhakti, that high thinking can also happen to you. So that is why the subject matter is high thinking, but it is called stotram. It's called Dakshinamurti stotram, and that's what it is. So okay, and in all its descriptions, Dakshinamurti, if Brahma's Manasa Putra are taught, then he is the Adi Guru. Now, the moment I say he is Adi Guru, every one of them became a Guru because they become enlightened. Whereas Dakshinamurti is already enlightened. He did not get his enlightenment from somebody and then he enlightened somebody else. He is Adi Guru. He is wise. All of us are on our journey. We are work in progress in being wise. He is wise. That is, he is Adi Guru. Dakshinamurti is the Adi Guru, because for Brahma's Manasa Putra, who are the first creations in this new thing, these four entities came and he was already able to, give him Upadesha. So that is why he is the Adi Guru with all, these. So with this, we will get into Dakshinamurti Stotra. And Dakshinamurti Stotra also has some nice Dhyana shlokas. I put three of them. I will going to explain. It is there, but I will take it and we will see the Dhyana shlokas and then get into the Dakshinamurti Stotram. But before that, a little bit of information. Basically, as I told you, it is if Viveka Chudamani is the magnum opus, it required 580 shlokas. If Prabodha Sudhakara required some 280 shlokas, it's another nice piece, Prabodha Sudhakara. If there is something very concise in which the whole thing is given in essence, that is Dakshinamurti Stotram or Ashtakam. People call it as Ashtakam, although there are 10. There are 10, but it is also called Dakshinamurti Ashtakam because there is some Dakshinamurti Stotram is also there, but I consistently want to use Dakshinamurti Stotra only. People call it as Ashtakam also. So short 10 verses, because each 3 lines, the 4th line is already known. Tasmai Sri Gurumurte Namaitam Sri Dakshinamurte is repeating, except for the last stanza. So now you can remove it. So we are talking about 9 into 3, 27 lines, plus another 4 lines, 31 lines, in which he has brought his entire Advaita Siddhanta, so deep, so profound, highly philosophical in nature. That is the specialty of Dakshinamurti Stotra. He has done it in a metrical form called Shardula Vikriditam. There are 19 syllables. It's a Guru, 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 then followed by Lagu, 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 like that. There is some sort of each meter has a certain structure. So this uses what is called Shardula Vikriditam, which is 19 syllables 4 times. Whereas Anushtup is the easiest, 8 syllables. 8, 8, 8, 8, 4 into 8, 32. Simple. Let's say Mahabharata, Ramayana, everything is Anushtup. Most of the stotras are in Anushtup. Gayatri is a special form of Anushtup, 3 into 8, 24. So that is a special form of Anushtup. Trishtup. Anyway, so, whoever reads Dakshinamurti Stotram deeply and properly will invariably get into Manasollasa, which is a Vartika written by Sureshwaracharya. Manasa Ullasa, it is the play of the thoughts, actually. Now, this Shankaracharya, when he established the Advaita Siddhanta, when he put the foundation, Sureshwaracharya, he is called Bhashyakara, Sureshwaracharya is called Vartikakara. Okay, he has done some wonderful commentaries. You know, Taittiriya Upanishad I referred, actually. I didn't, one or two I quoted without telling you. What he did was, everything the Acharya wrote, he, wherever possible, wrote a Vartika, which means explain it into a little more. So he built this beautiful superstructure of Advaita Vedanta, Sureshwaracharya. This Manasollasa is invariably acknowledged by everyone as real beautiful piece. So I have already laid my hands onto it. So for the first shloka, for example, Mauna Vyakya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam Yuvanam Vasishtante Vasashrignair Avritam Brahmanishtai. That shloka, Acharyentam Karakalita Chinmudramananda Murtim Swatma Ramam Mudita Vadaram. All that. Then he says, Vishwam Darpana, that's a Dhyana shloka actually. Vishwam Darpana Dirsyamana Nagari Tulyam Nija Antargatam is the first shloka. For the first shloka, Manasollasa, Sureshwaracharya has 31 shlokas to explain that. So I have, God willing, I will read it. I was quickly reading it there, very sarala. I didn't find it very tight. I hope I will be able to read and bring a little bit of sense into it. We will do that. We will bring Manasollasa wherever possible and then try to understand this. Otherwise, this is very profound, written in just 3 lines. It's a high thinking, which can put us into broad basing our understanding. So that's why I said it's atypical of Stotram in many ways, because there is no Devata, there is no praise, there is no asking for any benefit. All those structures and features are not part of Dakshinamurti Stotra. Just to give you a little overview, there are 10 verses. Verse 1 talks about the pluralistic world of perceptions and their unity. That's why Bahiriva Udbhutam, Mayaya Bahiriva Udbhutam. That's what he says in the first shloka. Vishwam Darpana Drisyamana Nagari Tulyam Nija Antargatam Pashyan Atmani Maya Bahiriva Udbhutam. As though it is manifesting outside, he says it is one. That's what he is establishing in the. Then the verse 2 and 3 talks about how the perception of forms and names are all actually Bijasyanti Rivanguro. Iva Anguraha. You don't know from where the first, Vatavriksha came. It's a chicken and egg problem. Did the seed come from the tree or the tree come from the seed? You have no answer. Because if you go like that, you know, where will you reach finally? That is what he is bringing through those slokas 2 and 3. He establishes that the perception of forms and names are superimposed on one infinity, infinite that concept. Verses 3 and 4, but 3 is common between the two. Methods of ending this misapprehension. How do we go beyond that and see that substratum? So that is what is spoken. Then Rahu Grasta Divakare into Sadrishaya, that is the Maya Samachada Samyak Achadanat. That is the 5th verse actually. Delusory power of Maya. He has written a Maya Panchakam. So nice. Swami Shankaracharya. There is a nice Maya Panchakam in which all this. Then verse 6 is about our own experiences in life, which he brings. 7 talks about the formless substratum. And the 8th verse is the issue of world being real. That ideas are part of the 8th verse. The 9th verse talks about the upasana as a means of integration. And 10th is actually a sort of a conclusion. So need to reflect on these ideas is what you find in the 10th shloka, which is in a way sort of a conclusive piece. So in these 10 shlokas, what you see is Shankaracharya is a great exponent of Advaita Siddhanta. That oneness is so nicely brought about. He is also can be seen as a disputant. He is able to sort out some of the issues. He comes across as a great devotee because people think Shankaracharya is all intellectual and only intellectual. Not at all. That is why in Viveka Chudamani again he said, Moksha Samagriyam Bhaktiri Eva Gariyasi. But his definition of bhakti says Swaswarupa Anusandhanam Bhaktirit Vidhiyate. So he is brought the pinnacle of bhakti. He is a great bhakta. He is been able to merge bhakti from the primordial form to the highest form. So he is also seen as a great devotee. All these are there. How much ever divine grace allows us, we will partake. We do not know how much we can partake. Whatever the divine grace allows us, we will be able to partake. Okay. We will look at this Dhyana Shloka a little bit today and then we will continue. I have been keeping you from the Stotram, but I think this kind of a preamble is good for us. Because the value of a Stotram gets hugely multiplied when we understand from where it is coming. Yaska in his Nirukta, there is one shloka in which he says, a person who utters mantras without knowing the meaning, which will apply, he said in a Vedic context, but it applies here also. A person who utters anything without knowing meaning, he says, he was not really condemning, he was making the point and moving forward. He said, he is like somebody who is carrying a huge weight at his back, which is of no benefit to him in any ways. How many of us want to carry a weight which will never benefit us for too long? So he gave an example. The only point he's making is in our journey, I think we must, I'm a great believer that without knowing meaning, we have absolutely no difficulty in learning because through that stotra, that Bhagavad Kataksha will bring us the meaning. I knew no Sanskrit in my life. Believe me. Absolutely no Sanskrit. Up to I was doing PhD. I think it was Bhagavad Gita. I was just saying the stotras with a pure sense of this is good to be told. That's what my mother told me. I was telling as a child.
You are carrying the load.
That's all. But it will do the job by itself. It will bootstrap, don't worry. So while that is fine, but I think effort to know the meaning is that itself is half the kata. That's why I'm spending so much time before getting. It is much easy to look at the stotra and go. I think tomorrow when we tell the stotra again, we should be different. When we look at Taittiriya Upanishad, we should be different now. I have been uttering Taittiriya Upanishad for 25 years, but last 1 year, when the way I uttered Taittiriya Upanishad has completely transformed me, and it takes me elsewhere. Because by grace of all your support, I was able to go through Taittiriya Upanishad like that. So that's why I am doing all this. So we will quickly look at this first shloka alone, and then we'll recite the shloka, and then we will continue. Perhaps we have time only up to that. Maunavyakya prakatita parabrahma tattvam yuvanam varsishtante vasadrishiganaihi avrutam brahmanishtaihi acharyendram karakalita chinmudramanandarupam swatmaramam muditavadanam dakshinamurtim ide. Here the Kriya Pada is ide. There is no other. The Kriya Padam in this is ide, which means we worship. Huh? It's not a Parasmai Padam, it's Atmani Padam. Ide. Let us worship, let us pray. Or that's all. Let us offer our pranams. Ide. So the question is, Karta is now implicit. Karta Aham ide is not required. Karta is implicit. Kriya Padam is there. Now we can search in our Karakas now. Now we will get into Karakas now. We can ask what is it. Come ide. Whom should I worship? Okay. Dakshinamurtim. So it ends with that. That's why salutations to Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurtim ide. So the Tatparya of this shloka is offer salutations to Dakshinamurti. Shloka is over. As a Tatparya. Now the descriptions of Dakshinamurti are there. The rest are all, and these are all very good samasas. Maunavyakya prakatita parabrahma tattvam is a single word. I have split it. All you have to put it together. It gets too complicated. So Maunavyakya prakatita parabrahma tattvam is one word, one pada. There is a bahuvrihi, within the bahuvrihi, there is another bahuvrihi, within that there is a tatpurusha, all those. This is how Sanskrit is. You can construct for your requirement. We'll see the meaning, then we'll know the power of samasa. We'll see it next time. But it's a single word. Mauno Vyakya Prakadita Parabrahma Tattvam is one description of Dakshinamurti. Yuvanam, another description of Dakshinamurti. Varsishtante Vasadrishi Ganaihi Avritam is a single pada. It's again a Bahuvrihi, within Bahuvrihi, all those are there. Karma Dharya, so many things are there inside. It says, Varsishtante Vasarishi Ganaihi Avritam. The Brahmanishtahi is actually for those people. Vasarishi Ganaihi. Oh, up to Ganaihi is one pada, sorry. Avritam is a separate pada. That's why the Brahmanishtahi, otherwise the Brahmanishtahi will be hanging now. Trishanku. So it is two padam. Varsishtante Vasadrishi Ganaihi. Avritam. Brahmanishtahi. The Brahmanishtahi is for the Ganaihi. It is actually qualifying that. They are all only qualifying one another. Okay? Acharyendram. Acharyanam Indraha. Tatpurusha Samasa. Acharyendram. Acharyendraha. Tasya Dvitiya Bhakti Acharyendram. Akaranta Pullingaha. Tasmat Acharyendram. Ramam. Vat. Karakalita Chinmudram Ananda Rupam is a single word. That I have split. Karakalita Chinmudram Ananda Rupam is a single pada. One word. Again there is a Bahuvrihi and all that which we will see. Swatma Ramam is another pada. One who revels in himself. Swatma Ramam. Mudita Vadanam is again Mudita Bahuvrihi. Muditaha Vadanaha Yasya. He is using a smile and a face to describe a third person. He is using two Anya Padartha. Smiling is one attribute, face is another attribute. Take these two attributes and talk about Dakshinamurti. This is exactly how a Bahuvrihi will be. So Mudita Vadanam. Dakshinamurtim Ide. We will continue. I just did that. We will continue. Next week I am not here. I am going on a sort of a travel. So 30th